Hello there, and welcome once again to Society Girl Saves the World. Today's episode, the film that we shall be discussing, is a film that was released early in 2002 by the name of Shikari Haseena. It's quite odd that after the failure of Sayyid Noor's Saima star A Jungle Queen in 2000, less than 2 years later we have a second jungle adventure film introducing Haseena as a jungle beauty gracing our screens, hoping to score a little bit better at the box office. It boasts Shaan in a lead role, supported by Babar Ali, Rembo, Shafqat Cheema, Ghulam Mohiuddin in a bit role, and it also stars Jalal Haider, known for his martial arts skills, as well as Champu, the chimpanzee. The film starts with Shafqat Cheema arriving at his mother's house, from which he has been banished for being the evil one of her 2 sons. He demands part of the family's inheritance, but is sent packing, but has vengeance burning in his eyes. Ghulam Mohiuddin, who is the good son, is focused on his infant daughter as he has recently lost his wife and heads off to the jungle for an expedition with his daughter despite the obvious dangers. Misfortune strikes as their camp is attacked by some fearsome lions and Mohiuddin is killed, while in the mass confusion his daughter is carried away into the thick of the forest, where she is rescued from a potential snake bite by a kind and vigilant eagle, and then is guided by a friendly chimpanzee who leads her to a tribal gang led by a benevolent warrior queen who takes the child under her wing as her own and grooms her to be the future queen. Haseena soon learns the ways of the jungle and builds some strong bonds with the animals around her, and a special bond with Champu, her companion. Meanwhile, back in the city, the Shikari Haseena's grandmother, now desolate after losing her good son Ghulam Mohiuddin, yearns to find her poti, granddaughter. And one fine day, as she's watching a TV program on wildlife, she recognizes a woman who is the spitting image of her daughter-in-law. She realizes in an instant that it is indeed her lost granddaughter, the heiress to the family fortunes. Hastily, she summons the producers of the TV show and hires them to return to the jungle and bring her daughter back home safely. The TV show is produced by Babar Ali and his friend Rembo, and before setting off for the dangers of the jungle, they assemble a crack team of karate experts headed by Jalal Haider and 3 curvaceous black belt beauties, as well as, oddly enough, 3 dwarves who serve as assistants and are named Samson, Hercules and King Kong. The TV crew, along with Jalal's angels, are busy making headway in their search for Haseena, with numerous comic interludes and spliced footage of various wildlife taken from random sources. We find that there is a large building project going on in the middle of the forest, which is unfortunately under threat of closure as a man-eating lion has terrified all the workers, who are set to quit and flee the scene. Shaan as Sherdil arrives on the scene and tries to inspire the petrified workers about the valiant soldiers in Siachen and the fearless suicide bombers who throw themselves in front of enemy tanks and bullets for their cause.
आज से कोई मजदूर काम नहीं करेगा।
तुम लोग काम छोड़कर चला गया तो पुल कैसे बनेगा?
पुल बने या ना बने, हम सब अपने अपने घरों को वापस जाएंगे।
हम वापस जाएंगे, हम वापस जाएंगे।
हमारे छोटे छोटे बच्चे हैं।
ठीक कहते हो, लेकिन एक बात याद रखना, जो मुजाहिद सियाचिन की चोटियों पर लड़ रहे हैं, वो जांबाज जो अपने सीनों पर बम बांधकर दुश्मन के टैंकों के नीचे लेट गए, उनके भी छोटे छोटे बच्चे हैं। ये पाकिस्तानी लेबर इतनी बुज़दिल है कि एक शेर से डरकर भाग गई।
He berates the poor labourers for their timid attitude, but also promises to get rid of the man-eater, which is actually borrowed literally from some scenes spliced together from the late 90s film The Ghost and the Darkness. Fearless warrior as Sherdil is, he kills the beast from another film and saves the day as well as the bridge project, and heads home for some good loving from his gorgeous wife. Shafqat Cheema, happy that his brother is dead and out of the way, now discovers that his path to the family inheritance is blocked by the emergence of a granddaughter living in the jungle, and he too gathers his resources, heading off to the jungle to eliminate the Shikari Haseena so he can claim all the wealth for himself. Meanwhile, in the jungle, Babar Ali is injured and rescued by Haseena, who nurses him back to full health, and love blossoms between the two of them. Haseena doesn't suffer from the same communication issues as Saima did in Jungle Queen, and she's well versed in Urdu. The tribal folk have taught her the language, and she is fairly socially adept. In his hunt for Haseena, Shafqat Cheema happens to come across Shaan's jungle home and brutally rapes and murders his wife as the plot begins to thicken around the halfway mark. Now, a devastated Shaan pursues his wife's killer, while the TV crew and Cheema are chasing after Shikari Haseena. Unknown to the TV crew he arrived with, Babar Ali has already found Haseena, but is keen on hanging out with her in the jungle with the tribal lot, and not in a particular hurry to return to the city and her grandmother. And so, the film winds its way to its climax with some thrilling fight scenes, thanks largely to Jalal Haider's expertise in the martial arts department. There are a number of songs along the way, none of them particularly memorable, but Champu surprises with his acting skills, and it is indeed rare that a real animal has been employed rather than a man in an ape suit, which is much more the usual thing. And now it remains to be seen if the Shikari Haseena will indeed leave the jungle and head back to the city to live with her grandmother. Will Shaan find new love after the death of his beloved wife? Will the dastardly Shafqat Cheema manage to get his grubby paws onto the family inheritance? And basically, who will survive and what will be left of them? Haseena is strikingly beautiful and is a lethal shot with her bow and arrow, but sadly her film career really didn't take off as the film tanked at the box office. Shaan is a bit heavy-handed with his sermonizing and better in the action sequences. Shafqat Cheema looks especially fetching in his blonde jungle wig, and Jan Rembo is rapid fire with his cheap innuendos and quips.
Shikari Haseena, tumhe dekh ke aa gaya mujhe pasina. The
scene where he gropes the private parts of a jungle giant and passes out literally from penis envy is a bit of a shock, to say the very least. The bevy of featured karate beauties perform their roles admirably, along with the trio of dwarves. The jungle tribe queen is adequate in her role, as is Babar Ali as Haseena's romantic interest, but the grandmother is uninteresting, leaving Champu to steal the acting honours. Nawab Sagar provides some decent makeup effects, and his blood fountain from the final fight sequence is especially noteworthy. The wildlife scenes are mostly footage taken from various nature shows and borrowed from other wildlife-oriented films and spliced rather crudely in, which is typical of the Lollywood method for jungle movies. The complete lack of effort made to blend them in with the scenery gives the film a crudeness which is perfectly in keeping with the tone of the production in general, crude and shoddy. Shikari Haseena was never going to be up for any awards for acting, nor for the filmmaking by a long stretch, and yet it manages to amuse for a couple of hours, and in comparison to Jungle Queen from a couple of years before it, it does rate marginally higher for entertainment value. The highlight of the film might just be Champu's performance, as well as the moral of the story, which states very clearly that animals are far truer than human beings, something which is difficult to disagree with. And with that, we come to the end of another episode of Society Girl Saves the World. Hope you enjoyed it, and you'll be back for more of the same soon enough. Until then, do stay safe. Bye-bye.